For the second time today, it is time to go Ligier European Series racing again for 60 minutes as the cars are heading out onto track now. If you weren't around bright and early this morning, we started at 9 o'clock local time. Minea Stefan eventually coming home the winner by 3.3 seconds over Bernardo Pinheiro, and the driver to start the number 60 Virage car, George King. So it ended up being a team Virage 1-2. Steve Zacchia and Louis Rossi completing the podium in the number 50 Le Ligier JS P4. They in turn were victorious in the Pro-Am element of the JS P4s. We've got basically an all-pro car if you run with one silver or two silvers. If it's a silver-bronze mix, it's Pro-Am, and if you're all-bronze lineup, like Lance Fenton and Kevin Madsen, who eventually finished 5th overall, but they won their class, they fit into the AM category. We're on the 5.7 kilometre circuit Paul Ricard for its annual visit, really, for the Ligier European Series. Definitely a European Championship, but with its heart in France. And in fact, the last round and these races are taking place in that country, because there was a single race on the 4th of June to fit around the two 3-hour sessions which formed Le Mans Test Day at Circuit de la Sarthe, and a rare chance for these cars to race on the full 8.5-mile circuit. Here's the grid formed up from yesterday's second qualifying session, and it's Romanian driver Minea Stefan with the second pole, 1:59.2 from Bernardo Pinheiro to start the car this time. Kevin Madsen will be in for the first stint alongside Steve Zacchia for Virage and Le and then it's the Monza Garage car along with the RLR M Sport machine next up. Moulay El Alaoui, the first African driver, we reckon, to be part of the Ligier European Series. He's from Morocco for smart driving, starting alongside Jacopo Mazza. Anthony Nara for Pegasus, joined by his teammate David Cosenel on the 5th row. Julien Le Mans will be in pole position for the JS2 R part of the grid, and a little bit further down the order, Nicola Casaniga, new to the championship, although Monza based, like the team, in fact, HB Racing by Monza Garage. They will be starting 13th ahead of Jacques Nicolet's JS2R. Gilles Pouret and Simon Butler come next, Farid Ali and Christophe Weber to complete the grid. It's Johnny Palmer and Graham Goodwin once again, by the way, and a really good opening race, I thought, early this morning, Graham. It
was an absolute cracker, wasn't it? It really did have something for everybody, whether you're not looking for wheel-to-wheel action, a little bit of carnage, but plenty of good racing in amongst one or two fumbles, but couldn't really call that until the very, very end. And look at this team formation, the 3 Team Virage JS P4s at the front of this grid, and amongst them there's going to be Steve Zacchia. I think Zacchia could have got a better result out of that race earlier today. Didn't really get his racing head on when it was time to get back to racing after the safety car came out. It looked to be the pacier of the chasing pack. Gave himself too big a job to do.
There were 2 infringements after the earlier race, each meaning that the 16 and the 95 cars were given 35-second penalties after the flag, both seen to be overtaking under yellow flags and during the safety car period, which is a big no-no. So the 95 and the 16 cars each receiving 35 seconds, but we're about to go racing for the second time today. Almost a perfect formation. You have to be straddling the grid hatchings, though, so a suitable gap between Minea Stefan and Bernardo Pinheiro as the lights are extinguished on the starting gantry. Green flag wave from the starting gantry itself, and heading down towards the first corner, 2 abreast between the Virage cars. Stefan, I think, still with the inside line just about on the Portuguese racer Bernardo Pinheiro. Everybody else left to sort themselves out. Delighted to see the LR Motorsport car is starting the race. After that, had all manner of mechanical gremlins creeping in for, first of all, Simone Riccitelli and the starting driver in this race, Jacopo Mazza. But let's hope that whatever it was, misfire or similar related electrical problem, has now been cured as Steve Zacchia, or Steve Zacchia's car, darts up the inside. Yes, it is him for the opening stint. Le number 50, goes 3rd.
Yeah, and he goes 3rd and also through, taking a position from the 3rd of those Team Virage cars, the Hampton Madsen, 80 Caragiuli, up to 4th in number 75 RLR M Sport car. In the JS2Rs, it's Julien Le Mans, Le Mans in the lead, ahead of Jacques Nicolet and David Rodrigo, Gilles Pouret, Simon Butler and Christophe Weber in the JS2R pack. Plenty of movement around the tail end of the JS4s, Johnny. 2 and 3 wide there briefly. It's the 2 Team Virage cars trying to get it sorted out. It's coming through a scene. They're still side by side.
And to the inside line, that's Stefan Menea with the pink door mirrors on the 48 car to stay ahead of Bernardo Pinheiro. But Pinheiro was briefly ahead, heading down the Mistral straight. And something really fascinating that I'd forgotten from last year, actually, about the JS P4s, how well they travel through the air when they're right behind a rival. So you gain so much more kilometres per hour and puts you in a really good position, either at senior or on several occasions earlier today. We were seeing overtakes halfway down the Mistral and then a repass.
We were.
And as they headed into turn 8. Brilliant to watch.
So this pack travelling as close as together as they are. We'd like to see that again. Haytham Caragiuli just dipping in behind Steve Zakia, not quite close enough to make a move there though.
No, so Zakia will continue to defend from Kuwaiti driver Haytham Caragiuli, who's briefly disappearing there behind the Le Mans car. Can just about see the orange flecks on the paint job for RLRM Sport this year in a radical livery redesign. Meantime, Julien Le Mans, who is a solo driver, you can elect to just run with one driver. Those cars still have to come in for a pit stop somewhere between the 27 and the 34-minute marker in the race. No driver change actually takes place, but nevertheless the car has to remain stationary for the right amount of time. It is time between timing loop in and out, and you cannot breach that pre-regimented minimum reference time for the pits. These three have been together before. This was earlier on today with the blue car of Jacques Nicolet ahead of the primer grey principally of David Rodrigo, and you've got Gilles Pouret in the queue as well for CTF Performance.
Yeah, great performance here from Jacques Nicolet, holding well that second place in JS2R, and quite close enough in that leading group of 4 to have a crack side by side, but behind they certainly are. That's the Monza Garage number 11 car and the number 1 Team Virage car side by side, and that move has been made.
Yeah, neat little overtake there then, and the 11 car had a good race late on, the Monza Garage example, for Chu Chun-Ting for the opening stint, although he's wide on the exit of Beausset, and that's not the ideal run through that corner, not least for his teeth, because you start losing cavities there if you hammer the curbs too much.
Coming in full attack was Jacopo Mazza, and he launched over the curbs as well, did well to gather the car up. Somewhat ambitious look up a gap at the inside of a gap that was rapidly disappearing, but Mazza looking racy here.
Yep, so Mazza trying to pressurise Kevin Madsen in the number 1 car. There is a rule in the Ligier European Series that whichever driver you start race 1 in, that driver must be in for the second stint in race 2. So where there are duos rather than the lone drivers, like for instance Julien Le Mans in JS2 R, if you've got 2 drivers you have to start with your other pilot for the second race. So Kevin Madsen plugged in for race 2, and likewise behind him Jacopo Mazza for the opening stint in the repaired number 7 car, which is running 7th. Anthony Nara, who did the second stint earlier today doing the opener for Pegasus Racing, running in 8th in car 17, and then this little lot 2nd, 3rd and 4th in JS2R. They can't catch Julien Le Mans, who's already nearly 3 seconds clear, but Jacques Nicolet providing a really good defensive drive here to keep David Rodrigo behind, together with Gilles Pouret in the orange car.
Yeah, it was almost exactly this battle, wasn't it? The latter part of race 1 this morning. Again, Nicolet doing a fine, stoic defence here. This is the battle for second place. This is Steve Zakia looking to get onto terms with Bernardo Pinheiro. Haytham Caragiuli right there as well, but this is all allowing Stefan to get away. He's 2 seconds to the good now.
And helped out by a really good lap compared to the others. He's just done a 2:01.7, which is well over a second quicker than anybody behind him. So Minea Stefan, who will lose some time during the pit stop because he's a silver driver and doing both stints. So you pay for that when you come into the pits. You have to spend longer on pit road, according to the regulations. Longer, that is, compared to an all-bronze lineup or a bronze and silver. Meanwhile, Steve Zakia, who has been installed into the Le Mans car, has gained a position on Bernardo Pinheiro. He now runs in 2nd position. Pinheiro dropping to 3rd in the 60 car, and Haytham Caragiuli wanting to pounce while the iron is hot here to try and get ahead of Pinheiro in turn. But he didn't get the ideal run off the final corner, so he has lost ground. And here comes Bernardo Pinheiro with a long look at the inside of Steve Zacchia. Decides he's not quite close enough though at the S-bend at Verrerie, and instead keeps in line with the Le Dusard car. But there is definitely pace there from Bernardo Pinheiro coming out of Virage Dupont, turn 14, and over the stripe.
Yeah, and Steve Zacchia taking that opportunity. That was well wide, wasn't it, from Pinheiro? So door wide open, I'm afraid.
But then Zacchia opened the door in turn himself into turn 11. There was a car width, I would say, for Pinheiro to get back up the inside, but that would have only given him the outside line for turn 12. Nicolay versus Rodrigo for second and third in JS2R.
Yeah, Nicolay he's got the elbows out, but this time Rodrigo's going to make that change. So Jacques Nicolay, for the first time in the race, drops back a position. He now has to be aware, and needs to be aware of the threat from Gilles Paulet, fourth place in this JS2R class. Said earlier, Julien Lenoir in the ELMS Motorsport car is now 6 seconds to the good ahead of this group. What could Rodrigo do? Now he's freed up from the challenge of Jacques Nicolay.
Well, thankfully the two didn't tangle at the apex of turn 5, because many times in previous years during this particular weekend, and in fact when any series visits Le Castellet, there is the scope for big contact on the apex of turn 5 as someone has narrowed down the angle to try and get the inside line. But from that sort of angle, you very rarely get through the corner, keeping all four wheels the right side of the white line, or at least two wheels the right side of the white line. And thankfully Jacques Nicolay had left enough in its braking ability to slow the car down and avoid contact with the Rodrigo car that he was trying to get past. So David Rodrigo looking very swift through turns 5 and 6. He will be about to complete the next lap very shortly. And of course what he doesn't want to do is lose too much time to Julien Lenoir in the ELMS Motorsport car number 42, as that gap continues to grow up to 5.9 seconds now between Lenoir and new second place driver Rodrigo, also for LR Motorsport, so run out of the same stable as the number 7 car of Jacopo Mazza in JS P4, Graham.
Well, Steve Zacchia's got by Bernardo Pinheiro. We saw that move again on replay. He's not, though, been able to pull away from him. And whilst this group is beginning, or rather was beginning, to make something of inroads into Vanir Stefan's lead, come down to what, just under 4.5 seconds on the last lap. Stefan has put in the fastest lap of the race to just re-secure his advantage, and now Pinheiro has got the toe.
And a very good one as well. Now the last bit of the Mistral straight slightly uphill. Now that he's out of the toe, he will lose a bit of ground, but I think he's got the road position, and up the inside will go Bernardo Pinheiro. So the Team Virage car back into second place. This is kind of what we had for the race lead bright and early this morning. Unfortunately for everyone else, it's for second place though, because Vanir Stefan is absolutely tearing up the asphalt, 4.2 seconds further up the road. However, Pinheiro, helped out by that toe, has just done an absolute best middle sector all the way down the Mistral.
It certainly has a classic overtaking manoeuvre into the scene from the Mistral straight. Remember, we've got George King to come in this car a little later. We are 10 minutes into this race. 24 minutes is the 24 minutes is the start. 27 minutes is the start of the pit stop window. So a brief look at the young Brit there, whose pace was stellar in race 1, albeit somewhat stymied by contact with the number 04 Monza Garage car that both of them chasing back.
Air temperature here at Ricard now 30.6 degrees Celsius and still climbing, and of course the track will retain that heat even when the sun starts to drop at what, about 6-7 o'clock tonight. So, and we'll still be racing by that point. Not for these cars, this is their final race at Le Castellet, but there's a Michelin Le Mans Cup race still to come, due to start at 5:10 and run till 7 o'clock. But again, a cracking visit for the Ligier European Series here to effectively another home race for this particular championship, although it is a European Series, and the bonus of another visit to Spain to come at the end of August to Aragon for 2 Saturday races. Now, rather hastily, that has had to be rearranged because of, sadly, the postponement or complete cancellation, in fact, of the rounds at Imola, because that track was being upgraded at the time for a Grand Prix that didn't actually happen because of the terrible weather in Italy, close to Bologna.
Indeed, so all sorts of traumas for Imola, weren't there? But I reckon it will be. This is Peter Caragiuli now, and he's under pressure from, that is the number 11 car, isn't it? It's Chunting Chow, Taiwanese driver, closing in on the Kuwaiti driver. Multinational competition here at the Ligier European Series.
So yes, Caragiuli not quite to the apex like the car behind was there. So Zhu a slightly tidier line through turn 12. 13 again, a bit of a struggle for Haytham Caragiuli. He's still getting used to these cars. Was absolutely unstoppable in the JS2 Rs last year, taking the championship. There was one hiccup along the way there where he had a Spa race that was massively affected by safety car and wet weather, I seem to remember. Typical Spa, really, and couldn't work his way back through the traffic, but otherwise he was winning everything, whereas this is more of a learning curve for Haytham Caragiuli.
It's progression, this is what it's all about. Gets here, remember, courtesy of the prize fund that operates here in the Ligier European Series, effectively funding this Grand Prix for him in 2023. That championship win. Lock up there. Fernando Pinheiro. Probably a corner or two ahead here. Is that going to give Steve Zakia the opportunity to get a little bit closer? Gap still, 1.2 seconds. Zakia back from Pinheiro as leader. Leah Stefan now back up to 5.5 seconds to the good. Now the 11 car going to the outside of the 75, and it's gone straight by.
Impressive stuff again. Slipstream in full effect for Chu Chun-Ting, but Haytham Caragiuli will stay right behind the Taiwanese driver and try the high line, perhaps into senior corner, but he's not quite close enough. Little bit of curb taken on the inside there from Chu Chun-Ting, unsettled the car briefly, but they both got through senior corner safely. Meanwhile, at completely the other end of the track now, at turns 3, 4 and 5, here's the scrap for third position in JS2 R. Jacques Nicolet ahead of the orange and black car of Gilles Pouret. So 2 Frenchmen, nose to tail, working their way back onto the Mistral straight.
Cracking on. And, Jacques Nicolet lost that second position as kept it on the island. Not that far back for Rodrigo. 8.6 seconds, by the way, Rodrigo back from Julien Lemoine. They're going to have a stop-go penalty, by the way, to car 17. 8th position for the leader for Pegasus Racing Cars, in fact, Anthony Nara. So overtaking beyond the track limits and the race starts.
Okay.
1, 2 or 3 wide. Perhaps it should have stayed that way.
Yes. So if you cross the white line, certainly, and head into the blue stuff either side of the start-finish straight, then you're judged to have taken advantage into the first corner, bearing in mind that first corner is a left-hander. And if you're well over to the left, you're effectively cutting turn 1 to gain positions. So yes, that equates to a stop-go penalty that must be served separately from the mandatory pit stop. So he'll have to come in and be released again by the team and then do the stop. I'm guessing it's going to be that way round because there's still 12 minutes to go before the official pit lane window opens.
Athlete trio still close together. Watch these 3 cars. It's a new fastest lap of the race to the race leader, Ligier Stefan. 2-1, 1, 2, 4. It's a quickest around as well. That gap is going out. So
Ligier Stefan really in his groove now. It seemed like it took him a while in the first race to work his way to the sharp end and then start to increase the gap. Dicing in the early stages with Simone Riccitelli, who has proven this weekend to be slightly faster than his also silver teammate Jacopo Mazza. Riccitelli and Matza were a class winner at the lone Le Mans race at the start of last month, coming through to be the effectively the JS P4 Pro winners. They don't call that category Pro, it's just JS P4 without the suffix. But the big headline there was actually it was a AM lineup that took victory at Le Mans on the road, and by 4 seconds they were quicker or faster to the line after that hour-long race than the all-pro lineup. So very impressive from the two Americans.
43 minutes to go, 17 minutes in the books. And still Ligier Stefan is in the lead, and the gap now almost 7 seconds. Steve Zakia now 2 seconds back from Bernardo Pinheiro, with Zhang Chao under pressure, so perhaps slightly more distantly from Aiton Caragiuli. The 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. JS2 R to the garage at Team Virage. ALS Motorsports, Julien Lemoine. 8.5 seconds to good now from David Rodrigo, who's still got his mirrors full of Jacques Nicolet, who's still got his mirrors full of Gilles Perret.
If you didn't recognise the Virage driver on the left, by the way, that was Manuel Espirito Santo, who will be in action later on in the weekend. But George King definitely going to be the second driver into the number 60 that he shares with Bernardo Pinheiro. So Manuel Espirito Santo from Portugal, just 19 years old and competing in Le Mans Cup or has competed in the Le Mans Cup this year, but mainly in the ELMS with Team Virage. Now we're catching traffic for the 48 car of Ligier Stefan. Deals with
Christophe Weber.
There we go.
Yeah,
in the Pegasus racing car, number 29.
Yeah, tail of the field for Christophe. Finding his feet. Next challenge will be, it's some 7 seconds further up the road, is Farid Ali in the interior ball competition number 14, JS P4. You can see there the yellow and green car. It's not going to be long before he's with him. Under 10 minutes now to the pit stop window opening.
Yes, and Ligier Stefan, it's important for him at this stage not to lose concentration, because he'll have to take a longer pit stop than those running with bronze, silver or all bronze lineups. So if you're in the number 1 car, also run by Team Virage, that will be the quickest pit stop that we're about to see for Lance Fenton and for Kevin Madsen, who's driving at the moment. So there'll be Lance to take over at roughly the half-distance mark, but they can be in and out of the pits far quicker than, for instance, the number 17 car, which is taking its stop-go penalty now for Anthony Nara.
So this will be stop and go.
Just about worked. A second stab of the throttle.
Little bit of a kind of a cough, wasn't there?
I think there was a danger that Nara was going to stall the car there, so he needed to make sure he was releasing the clutch gently. Of course, that needs to be done as well during the pit stop, but the pit stop's more measured and there's a little bit more time in hand, whereas you're looking to try and stop the car and go as quickly as possible to lose as little time as possible. The 17 car will have to come back in again somewhere after the 27-minute marker for its proper pit stop.
Gilles Perret is looking for a way past Jacques Nicolet, hasn't found it there. Putting the elder statesman of the Ligier operation under pressure here, though. But Jacques Nicolet, with huge racing experience in contemporary and historic racing, up to and including the FI World Endurance Championship in LMP2, with cars of his own construction.
Turn 14, where they just were and nearly making contact, is such a difficult corner to overtake. You have to be fully committed on the brakes to make sure that from nowhere your car is then, as best as you can, fully alongside the car you're trying to overtake. If you're not fully alongside, you will spin the car in front of you out straight away, and there have been so many penalties over the years at 14 and here at turn 5 as well, because a number of cars will come shooting out of turn 4, the left-hander, and be delivered into the apex at turn 5. But again, you have to make sure the car you're about to overtake knows you're there and gives you a little bit of racing room.
Battle goes on, this for the final podium position. Still 39 minutes to go, but all of a sudden David Rodrigo is getting away from this pair, Johnny.
Yeah, it's a good run again. for me, the JS2Rs don't work quite as well with the slipstream as we've seen with the JS P4s. So we're not seeing as dramatic overtakes as we are seeing in the prototype class in the Ligier European Series. There may still be a place change. Now, it's not quite good enough for Gilles Pouret. That was partly down to him not getting the best exit out of the turn 6 and 7 complex that then delivers you onto the Mistral straight. But the gain in a JS P4 from the draft, from that...
it's amazing.
It's incredible.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't remember it being as good as that in previous years when the Ligiers have visited Le Castellet.
This is the battle for... What is this? This is for 8th place. Moulay El Alaoui in the number 5 car ahead in the smart driving car. That's the all-black car being chased here by David Cossonel in the number 16 Pegasus Racing car, the sky blue and white JS P4.
So out of the right-left flick they will go and down the Mistral straight. Minea Stefan leading by almost 10 seconds now over Bernardo Pinheiro. But a good dice developing on the Mistral right now in JS P4. And likewise in the JS2R, still Jacques Nicolet cannot shake Gilles Pouret, who moves, feints to the inside, to the central bit of the track there, into Verrerie. But there's no way by because Jacques Nicolet carries good mid-corner speed to fend off the CTF Performance prepared car behind.
Pouret getting warned on track limits at turn 14 with this, so his pursuit is getting a little wilder. So at the moment, Jacques Nicolet doing more than enough to fend him off, and clearly the pressure is beginning to tell on the man who is chasing at the moment, as he's the one with the warning on track limits.
So Nicolet and Pouret will leave turn 7 together, head on to the Mistral. Gilles Pouret's already had one go at this, so he's looking to try and really get to the rear wing of Jacques Nicolet and be pulled along. A bit like at the Nürburgring Nordschleife, you always find that on the Dottinger Hoor at the end of the lap. Mistral Straights is an equivalent part of the track here, I suppose, as the number 11 car is moving again. And that, again, is stopping out of sequence.
Yeah, it came in just a few moments ago. Must have been a problem there for the Taiwanese driver. Not in the pit window yet. So hopefully that was a problem and not a miscommunication.
Yeah.
I've seen another change, by the way, for 4th place. Jacopo Mazza is up into 4th ahead of Haytham Caragiuli. So that number 7 LR Motorsport car that was in trouble this morning. And that is a change for 2nd place as well. Steve Zacchia has gone ahead of Bernardo Pinheiro. And what can Zacchia do about the charging Minea Stefan, who's 11.7 seconds ahead at this point in the race?
Well, the problem for Steve is he's going to have to drop Bernardo Pinheiro first, and that's a job in itself. Running a little too deep into Beausset, although actually there's 2 definite apices at Beausset, and you do allow the car to wash out in between the 2 of them to then cut back last minute and head out of Beausset with the tighter line where possible into then turn 11. So you're coming out of a right-hander and then directly into a left-hander. We did just get a glimpse of the LR Motorsport car of Jacopo Mazza, who's got ahead of Haytham Caragiuli, as you mentioned.
5 seconds back to this pair. So we keep an eye on 2 gaps. One is the gap to the leader. That's coming down a little. The other one is the gap to the 4th place car, Jacopo Mazza. And Simone Riccitelli to follow. They are surely going to want to undo the wrong they will feel that the unreliability of their steed paid them in race 1.
Threading their way through the tricky left and right corners that start the lap. Looks very level through there, but actually you're fighting the car and there's a fair bit of gradient change, particularly through turn 2 as the track rises and then falls dramatically. So there is a danger of definitely the steering going light there. Your stomach ending up in your mouth. Meantime, through turn 5, almost contact between Steve Zacchia and Bernardo Pinheiro. I bet there's going to be the same between Mazza and Caragiuli as well, although that gap is steadily climbing now in the favour of the Swiss driver, Jacopo Mazza. And Mazza, rather, for LR Motorsport, running in 4th position. There he is, just emerging. And also, we've got the RLR M Sport liveried JS2 R of the Racing Reverend Simon Butler circulating in 5th place, but quite a bit of time to find on Jacques Nicolet. Side by side again, Graham, for 2nd place.
Again, it's the copycat performance. Back into 2nd goes Bernardo Pinheiro. was done to him, he's done right back a couple of laps later. You're completely correct. Had to break that toe. Steve Zakia didn't manage to do so. And the Portuguese driver back up into second place, under 11 seconds now. So they are closing in on this lead gap, but it is still a substantial advantage. We are under 50 seconds from the pit window opening.
Simon Butler deliberately running off the road there to allow these quicker cars through. So the number 10 car is lapped, the RLR M Sport JS2 R. Butler, though, still with one rival behind him in the form of Christoph Weber for Pegasus Racing, the number 29 car. In fact, there are two cars behind Simon currently, because that also includes Farid Ali for Inter-Europol competition in the 14. But Nicolo Casaniga, who started the HP Racing by Monza garage car, might be a little disappointed with his stint so far. He's got his generally quicker son, Daniele, to take over in the second stint with the two drivers. Daniele from Monza, Nicolo originally from Serena, though, in Italy, and they're partnering up again. Daniele by far the more experienced, having actually raced in the Porsche Super Cup last year for a couple of rounds, the Porsche Championship that supports the Formula One Grand Prix.
So now into the pit stop window, Johnny. Who's going to be first to make that move?
Well, it depends on who is actually in that part of the track. The number 4 car of Nicolo Casaniga could potentially head down pit road. He's just circulating through 13 and 14.
Anthony Nora dives to pit lane. Christoph Weber the same, so too does, quite correctly, Nicolo Casaniga.
Yep, so the others were just ahead of the Italian on the road, and Anthony Nara, his second visit to pit lane, having already been there for 30 seconds for the stop and go penalty. Pinheiro versus Zakia, still with plenty of life left in it. Zakia to the inside on the approach of Bose, but there's no way through there for the Swiss.
So trio of cars on pit lane at the moment. Two Pegasus cars, the 17 and the 29, and the number 04 HP Racing by Monza garage car. Plenty of life left in this race. Still well over half an hour to go. As we saw race 1, Johnny, the action just kept coming. Almost right to the flag.
Yeah, Bernardo Pinheiro needing to be cautious into Virage Dupont so that Steve Zakia wasn't going to pounce at the very last moment. We will see some plenty of full-blooded manoeuvres through the course of the Le Mans Cup and the European Le Mans Series race, I'm sure, into turn 14 over the next day and a half.
Jacques Nicolet on pit lane, the Desarb crew go to work. Now some leading cars come in, including our race leader, Mania Stefan, on pit lane. Through into the lead now goes Bernardo Pinheiro. Also on pit lane, Jacopo Mazza. Peter Caragiuli follows suit.
Well, they had been locking horns for 4th and 5th all the way through that stint, so they've pitted on the same lap, and it's now not exactly a straight fight on pit road because they both have to adhere to minimum reference times, although Jacopo Mazza, he's in a silver lineup, and the Haytham Caragiuli car coming down pit lane will be in for about the same amount of time, I reckon.
Rodriguez, it will be getting aboard the RLR car into, this is the 04.
Or the 11.
The 11's still on pit road. Oh, that's coming out, so it's 04 leaving pit lane.
Yeah. Xu Shunting still owes us a stop within the window. He did a pit stop earlier on, which was 43 seconds, so that's longer than a stop and go that we had potentially missed, but I don't think we did. The number 11 car, I think that's more an issue with the car that needed to be checked out.
Farid Ali also on pit lane, and looks to me here, Johnny, as if Bernardo Pinheiro is having a good run here. He's passed by Steve Zakia, repassed him, and he's driving away a little.
Yeah, this is the first time we've actually seen now, after they overtake happening, a driver, either Pinheiro or Zakia, to establish themselves in the race lead. But that is being steadily cemented now by the Portuguese. And as I say that, he will dart left over safety car line 1 into pit road, which is a much better and more easy to negotiate pit lane entry than we used to have a few years ago. Pit lane entry was very awkward indeed, and actually after turn 14 you then had to get the car over to the right and do pretty much a 90-degree right followed by a 90-degree left to get into pit lane. Thankfully, that was all ironed out a few years ago.
It was a bit sketchy at times, that.
We ran ELMS races like that previously, and in fact Le Mans Series races.
We did.
With that pit road entry.
Big LMP1s in play there.
Indeed.
And, yeah. Number 60 from the lead as Kevin Madsen carries on, and the number 1. So all 3 Team Virage cars have led this race, Johnny.
Impressive stuff. Virage definitely doing something right this weekend as they get more and more established as a team to reckon with in all of the layers of ACO rules racing. To be honest, they've been seen, of course, in LMP3 in the European Le Mans Series, and we had an LMP2 car from Virage as well.
We have?
Yeah.
This year?
Yeah. It's been so long since the first round of ELMS at Barcelona. Most of the memory banks are empty on my side of the commentary box, I have to say. 80 days, something in that region, since the opening races and this one. Now, a problem with the door on the 50 car, and there's a little bit of tape being applied there.
They're not going to be allowed to tape that door shut.
That's what I thought, because that's normally a no-no to put tape on a door. It has to still open in case the driver needs to get out at speed. That will be being observed by the race officials. But the new driver into the 50, Louis Rossi, being told to get the engine turning over, and now being sent back out. But I wouldn't be surprised to see a message from race control concerning that rather frenetic pit work being done on the 50 car. More to the point, it's the driver's side of the car that has been taped down. And through the course of the weekend, I'm pretty sure they do it in Ligier's as well, a driver is timed as to how long it takes them to get out of the car, either at driver's side or indeed the passenger side, because of course that side of the car might be wedged up against a tyre wall when the driver needs to get out quickly.
Spirited battle here between the 4 and the 5. Goes the way of the 4. Yeah,
only just, but around the outside of senior corner, and the 0-4 car staying ahead. And one side of the front of that car still in the bare carbon livery. I don't think that's part of the livery itself. The door is popped open, just not enough tape being put on it when there shouldn't have been tape in any case. But the actual the catch itself needs to be rectified.
This is the 1 car from the lead, by the way, Kevin Madsen. Louis Rossi would have inherited that lead, and it's not going to be the case, is it? Because Michelin Stefan is going to come round and take that lead. There is the leading pair, unless that door stays closed.
Well, it will stay closed at this point because it's doing the thick end of, what, 150 kilometres per hour or more or so.
It looked on pit lane as if the door was sitting proud of the frame, and it still is.
Yeah. In fact, through the timing splits, beg your pardon, 250 odd kilometres per hour through the real fast stuff. But it is in the slower speed corners where the inertia, or rather the energy of the car, is all of a sudden being slowed, and the door will not want to slow with it. So that's when it will ping open, and the small bits of tape that have been applied start now to just be torn away. So they've done no job whatsoever to the 50 car, and if it really starts to be a problem for the new driver, Louis Rossi...
It's absolutely a problem. The Michelin Stefan is all over him already.
Well, yes, it's not only a distraction, but
absolutely.
But the issue from a race direction point of view is it's then starting to become a mechanical problem.
The lead has, yes, the lead has changed.
Yeah, well, that was always going to happen anyway, because Michelin Stefan is generally faster than Louis Rossi, but with Rossi having to be one-hand driving at times to make sure that door is closed, I think the next step could well be the black flag with the orange spot on it, as in a mechanical warning flag, because you cannot have a door flapping like that. There is a danger that it might be torn off entirely.
I correct myself, he's not leading because Kevin Madsen is out and ahead of them because of that shorter pit stop.
Yes.
So black and orange flag correctly goes to 50 to repair the door.
Yeah, that was inevitable from my vantage point. You're right that it's not for the lead yet. It's likely to morph itself into the lead.
Yeah.
Because Michelin Stefan, again, being a silver-rated driver, should be quite a bit quicker across this stint than Lance Fenton. However, he did have 4 seconds to find. It's now only 1.1 to the race lead.
Pit window is now closed, unlike the door on the number 50 car. And this is the battle for the lead. Virage on Virage. Michelin Stefan on Lance Fenton. Romanian driver on American driver. And it's going to go the way of the charging Minea Stefan.
So Minea now ahead of his teammate, and Lance Fenton was not going to cause a problem for a fellow Team Virage runner. The pink door mirrors with a bit of pink trim on the rear wing of Minea Stefan, the Romanian's car, is now then ahead of the red detailed Team Virage car, red door mirrors I mean, and the red rear wing. So easy to spot those cars from a distance. When you see the number 1 from the rear as well, they put the Stars and Stripes flag either side of the dorsal fin on these Virage Ligiers. So JS P4 very much in the hands of the Polish squad, running first and second with a third car in 4th, if you know what I mean. That's George King. And
that is going to be up to 3rd because the 50 car has got to stop. It's an extraordinary result looking possible for Team Virage. What's this? That's a big off for Simon Butler, isn't it? Well, Simon handed the car over.
Should be now because the pit stops have all been done. So new driver into the 10 is Max Meyer.
It is indeed.
Who put in that really good opening stint, the 17-year-old Spaniard.
Well, Minea Stefan has just driven away here. That's 1 lap, and he's 4 seconds to the good.
There you go.
Louis Rossi, meanwhile, has not pitted in the number 50 car, and they have to watch this. They really do need to be down pit lane quite quickly. Pit stop on car 50 is under investigation. I wonder if that is putting the tape on the door.
Indeed. So not only have they been pinged for the mechanical nature of a door flapping, but then the attempted repair, which sits outside the regulations as far as Graham and I know. Tape on a door, a big no-no,
yeah, for
the reasons we've explained. So that there might be a 2-pronged penalty here, a double whammy if you like, for the 50 car, which is still in the podium places as we speak, but that's set to change at any moment. Le Dussarbe will descend, or descend, perhaps being a French team, and George King set to benefit, together with his teammate Bernardo Pinheiro.
Yeah, so 1st to 4th, and in the position George King is at the moment, 13.3 seconds. Perhaps the more relevant one to be calling is 1st to 2nd, 2nd to 4th. That's 7 seconds right now. What can George King do about that? Now, is he under pressure from Simone Riccitelli? He is. So that gap is coming down as well. That's not done.
No, good initial sector for Riccitelli on this lap. That's a PB for the car, so faster than Jacopo Mazza managed in any of his laps during the opening stint. The very untidy looking Le Dussarbe car now, because of that tape flapping in the breeze. Surely it's going to turn right, and it gets to turn 13 and peel off. Well, it's not the right side of the white line at the moment. You need to be to driver's right of the blend line. Louis Rossi staying out. Now, he's either not got the message from the team, but then there is an LED board on the start-finish straight where you cannot miss the number 50 and the black flag with the orange dot. What did that extra message say?
It said that reported to the stewards for ignoring the black and orange flag. So there is trouble coming here for the 50 car.
Normally it's 3 laps from the flag being shown initially to how long you've got to respond to it. And that, I think, completes the 3rd lap, where any chance of the car going down has been rejected.
Car 50, stop and go 1 second for pit stop infringement.
So
right.
So it's the pit stop infringement that I'm pretty sure will be applying the tape.
Okay, so rather than the pit stop being 1 second short, you think they've added a second on?
I think it's a stop and go as a penalty for making a repair they should have made.
Yeah.
And then they'll have to come in again to make the repair.
Yeah, no, it says not respecting the minimum pit stop time. So it's a 1 second stop and go. They were under by a second. They were quicker than by a second. So they have to come in and serve that extra time. Then they've got to come in and obey the mechanical warning flag. But in order to do the stop and go, it's got to go again. So in what order do you do this? Got to fix the problem first, surely.
So Louis Rossi, currently in 2nd place. Got the 60 and the 1 car. Now it says... Did Steve Zacchia go by Louis Rossi? I think he did, didn't he? He did. So he's up to 2nd place. It's one of the reasons why he's
Steve Zacchia is in... Well, Louis Rossi is in the Steve Zacchia car. Zacchia began the 50.
My apologies, I'm calling that wrong, aren't I?
Yes.
So it's, George King, sorry, has gone past Lance Fenton is what I'm trying to get to. So George King was 4th, now 3rd. and will be second.
Yes.
When this all works its way out.
So Team Virage will very likely finish this race or be in a position to be 1, 2, 3. We've still got 19 minutes to go.
Team manager car 50 to race control immediately. Team manager car 50 to race control immediately.
It's not going well for Les Deux Arbres and for the combination of Steve Zackier and Louis Rossi. In fairness, Zackier's got very little to do with this. It's all post the door repair problem. So a bigger piece of tape now being offered onto the door. And
well,
that's another big concern for me.
I'd have to check the regulations, but I'm sure, certainly in international sports car racing, that is a massive no-no.
Yeah.
And if anything, the more tape you put on, the more of a no-no it is.
Well, they've been asked to repair it. There was no mention of tape either having to be involved or not involved.
Still has to be this side of the regulations, so without knowing what the specific regulations say here.
But normally, a door repair when it won't shut means a replacement door entirely or a new catch, which is the bit that sits in the car.
Now this is the battle for third place now. This is LR Motorsport, Simone Riccitelli on Lance Fenton to spoil what otherwise would be a perfect result for Team Virage. Riccitelli to the outside. Hasn't got it done yet.
Not quite. A further note on the 50 car, by the way, they cannot claim that that was the 1 second stop and go penalty being served, even though the car was stationary for about 20 seconds. That will have to be another stop. Round the outside for LR Motorsport, and Riccitelli did indeed pick off Lance Fenton. So it's not at the moment going to be a 1, 2, 3 finish for Team Virage, because LR Motorsport arrive on the scene to spoil the party, and LR Motorsport up to third position now.
By the way, that stop for them, the 50 cars, dropped them down to 11th place with a stop still to come.
Yes, so still plenty for this race to give to us, and Riccitelli was the star from the opening stint. Question is, has he got enough pace in hand to catch this car, the number 60 of George King? George has massively impressed throughout the course of this weekend and indeed at Barcelona as well. A big wag of the tail there from the number 20, no, it was the Rodrigo car, wasn't it? Number 43. That is in second position. No driver change there because it's only Rodrigo in that car all weekend.
Well, this is a battle for the win in JS2R, because that gap is now under a second. David Rodrigo from Julien Le Mans. Gilles Perret is next back, but quite a hefty gap. And just looking for Max Meyer. Could make some progress here before the end of the race. Whilst there's some chunky gaps in this class, not out of the question that Max Meyer could make up that time. He is much quicker than the cars ahead of him. He's going to do well to get up to the podium, but not counting that out. Here is the number 7 car, third place car, 5 seconds back from George King. There is George King there with the grey and orange car, the JS P4, making his way through this JS2R traffic. From his perspective is Simone Riccitelli. It is 10 seconds added to the end of the race for car 10 for pit stop infringement. That is Max Meyer. That's the second penalty that car's had today.
Yes, they had to serve exactly the same penalty in the first race, and there's confirmation of it on your screen. So 10 seconds added at the end of the race, because there's now not a pit stop to come, of course, but a pit stop infringement rather than the disrespect of the minimum reference time. So I don't know exactly what happened during their pit stop, but that was when Simon Butler came in and he handed over to his Spanish teammate. Max Meyer is hustling on. He's just done a 2:08.5, which is significantly faster than Jacques Nicolet and than Gilles Perret ahead of him. Now there's a problem for Farid Ali in the number 14 Inter Europol competition car, stopped in the final sector, Graham.
And facing the wrong way, so he's had a spin. Can he get that one back and running? He does, slowly. 14 car. Familiar colours of Inter Europol competition, unfamiliar shape to the team of the JS P4.
Yes.
14.5 minutes to go. Mania Stefan, 12.2 seconds to the good from George King, who is holding off the challenge of Simone Riccitelli. That gap, 4.9 seconds. Lance Fenton, though, is falling into the clutches of Ian Aguilera. You can see that battle in the background there. Two prototypes behind these two JS2Rs.
And this is the scrap you were building up to, Graham, for the lead in JS2R. Julien Le Mans has been being caught by David Rodrigo, the Italian, over the last few laps. There's another spin for the LR Motorsport car there. So high drama for Simone Riccitelli. What on earth has happened there? Unless it's the mechanical gremlins streaking back in again for LR Motorsport. Or did Riccitelli just spin on his own? But he is now being caught by Ian Aguilera. So
Aguilera's gone by Lance Fenton, is now about to do the same to Simone Riccitelli, and he does that with ease.
I'll be able to tell you in a moment how much time Riccitelli lost, because they will cross the second sector split, and we'll tell you how much he's been delayed by. 10 seconds he lost there in that second sector.
Fighting back, and he goes back ahead of the RLR car. So I think that was just a spin.
Spin and continue. He loses... well, lost a spot briefly to Ian Aguilera, got it back again, although he's now run a bit too deep into Bose, and Aguilera on the inside line gets the place back again. Great racing, but all because of Riccitelli making a bit of a pineapple flan of this situation.
Is that a phrase?
I've made it one. It is down my way.
Excellent. No good on pizza, though.
Nose to tail they go, with now Aguilera ahead of Riccitelli when it was looking really good for the 7 car not too long ago. And in between them now is the Julien Le Mans driven car. So Rodrigo right on the boot lid of the blue and black car as the two JS P4s, the JS P4s do battle. And Aguilera's making a break, I would say, from the number 7 car.
Absolutely. And in amongst that, Julien Le Mans' run to the end of the lap was compromised. Rodrigo are all over him as Lance Fenton comes at the inside of both.
Rodrigo, is he going to keep the car on the straight and narrow? I think there might have been a touch there.
It was tight. This is a great battle for the win. What was this? Is this? That is the trouble there at the top of the screen. Is that? Well, that's the 50 car.
Yeah,
door is open again.
Still with the door problem. So all of that extra tape has really not done any good at all in trying to solve the problem. And probably not too far away from the 50 car getting another mechanical warning flag to address that. And they may get it ticking off right at the end anyway. I mean, the team manager of car 50 had been summoned to race control anyway to chat it all through.
Has, by the way, done their stop and go.
Okay.
31 seconds on pit lane last time around. That will be the stop go.
So they attempted to fix the door in the normal pit stop. There was then another stop to attempt to fix it again, and then they've done a 1 second stop and go penalty. But I don't think they're out of the storms just yet.
Riccitelli again. This time doesn't make it by on the Mistral.
Aguilera to the inside line. He needs to defend though into Bose, which he did just about. It was a late reaction from Ian Aguilera, but Riccitelli fended off one more time.
Good run here from both these two cars. And this time, is he getting around the outside? Can't do it there. Looks to try the undercut here. Still no room. 11 minutes remain and a third go in 3 corners.
So Ian Aguilera, the young Mexican driver, still only 16 years old, fighting against Simone Riccitelli with a few more years on him and a few more race experiences as well. But nevertheless, the young kid who spent a couple of years in the UK racing Ginetta Juniors is fending him off for the time being in that 75 car. In the RLR M Sport colours, Riccitelli, jink to the right, then to the left. Just dropped a couple of wheels over the white line, but will give him the inside line into Verrery. And as long as he can muscle the car over to the right, but I'm not sure he can, because here comes Aguilera on the fight back. To be fair to Riccitelli, he's giving him racing room, but then he does manage to get the LR Motorsport over to the right-hand side into turn 3.
Oh, big wiggle.
Big flick from the nose of Aguilera's car. You then have to, similar to Monza, take the escape road and gently feed back in so that you don't take advantage in corner cutting at turn 3.
That's the change. David Rodrigo, but he's off the track as well. So, good grief, it's all over the place, this race, isn't it? So, Aguilera has done the right thing, rejoined after going wide and ceding that place back to Riccitelli, but goes by on the Mistral again.
Nose to tail once more, and we know how good these JS P4s are through the air when they're picking up the toe. Ian Aguilera in front might not have too much ammunition to fight back on Simone Riccitelli. If Riccitelli runs around the outside at senior corner, terrific overtake, as long as he doesn't go wide and run the car off the road, which he doesn't, straddling the white line and back into third position for Riccitelli.
Amazing stuff. It is another black and white, a black and orange flag, by the way, for the 50 to repair that door. I wonder if that's going to be game over for them at this point.
It might be worth just saying, do you know what, I think we're beaten in this race. The podium was likely at one point, but we're now risking dropping back into the JS2 Rs. In fact, I think Louis Rossi will do exactly that in a moment or two's time. So more attempts to fix the door, and presumably just a little bit more tank tape to assure that no, they're going to tear that off. And perhaps think about replacing the actual catch now, or sticking something in the catch, but the door still needs to open in an emergency. That's why it's so difficult to repair that part of the car when you're in a motor race, and when you're in a 24-hour race, obviously it needs to properly be stuck down, not by tape though, and often we see replacement doors being brought out and new catches as well.
We've seen it with Ferraris needing replacement doors,
yeah,
Ford GTs needing replacement doors.
And often the door doesn't match the rest of the livery of the car.
On the odd occasion, an Orica needing a replacement door in LMP2, but I think it's the first time I've seen it with one of these little Ligiers. These things happen. This is George King trying to do what he can to chase down the leader, Minea Stefan, but it's still just over 11 seconds, the gap. Just under 11 seconds as they clear that timing beam. But 7.5 minutes to go.
Seeing on another one of our cameras that you're not privy to as the viewer, the CTF Performance guys putting the cross up basically to one of the cameramen saying Gilles Pouret out of the race in the number 95 car. But intriguingly, the 50 is back into competition. So it has now slipped into the JS2 Rs on the timing screen, running effectively third in that category now for Louis Rossi. But maybe they don't want to turn down another 7 or 8 minutes of track time. Thinking about the future of their championship at Le Dossard, as squirming and sliding his way out of Virage du Lac and into the tricky right-hander that ends the lap, George King. But much further in front, Minea Stefan, after a good season in this championship last year and returning for a second run at it. And the Romanian driver having completed 25 laps, 6.5 minutes still to go.
Still, this battle goes on for the final podium position. Simone Riccitelli just edged away a little last time. But looking in Aguilera last time. Peels back 2 or 3 more tenths. 6 minutes to go. He'll fancy another crack at this. If you can get into the wheel tracks of the car ahead, we've seen all sorts of dramas can happen on the Mistral. Double overtakes we've seen, or rather overtake and then being retaken. That's how long that straight is.
But certainly a double slipstream though as well, so 2 cars in a line, and as the overtaker you were able to get effectively a double amount of slingshot power down the, or locomotion at least, down the Mistral straight and then into senior corner. But as you say, the timing is everything, because if you do it too early, then the car you've just overtaken has a really good shout of retaking. And
it does seem as if you're a sitting duck if someone's taking the brave pills, does it? And that's why you're seeing Riccitelli just adjust his line, try to make sure that it's as difficult as possible for the chasing Ian Aguilera to get that toe. He's not close enough here, I don't think, Johnny.
Well, Aguilera benefiting again from a car in front of him, putting a personal best lap sector time through sector 1 in car 75 on this lap. Wasn't able to repeat that though through sector 2. And now a big squirm from the number 7 car. Something dropped from the car there, I noticed. Maybe it was just a bit of debris that Riccitelli had run over. But obviously wanting to preserve his tyres for a few more laps yet. So let's hope that that's not going to encroach and just start to work its way into one of the Michelins.
4.5 minutes. And there's Stefan well away. Still 11 seconds to the good from George King, who is 21 seconds ahead of this battle. This is the battle towards the end of the race in JS P4. JS2R, Michelin Le Mans, after having won that battle with David Rodrigo. Rodrigo now fighting back a little. The gap is under 2.5 seconds with 4 minutes remaining. So battle for third in JS P4, battle for the overall in JS2R, 4 minutes to go.
Oh, Riccitelli, straight line Ferrari there. So the sequence of corners left and right at turns 1 and 2. Normally have to be very cautious threading your way through, but there was way too much speed from the Italian, and he's gained quite a bit of ground on Ian Aguilera as a result. So should really just blend out of the throttle and ease back a touch so that they are the same distance apart. I was just about to say that despite the scrapping amongst the two of them, they both were able to do their best laps of the race.
Yep.
Last time through, a 2:01.8 for Riccitelli, a 2:01.7, so marginally faster for the chasing car of Aguilera.
I think he's done just about enough there. He did certainly allow himself to cede some track gap, if you like, to Ian Aguilera, but it's still almost a second as they came through sector 1. It was a quarter of a second before. No way here for Aguilera. There you go. Ray has though been reported to the stewards for not respecting the instructions in turn 1. Now, I wasn't in the driver's briefing, I don't think you were either.
No.
But that will have been about how you rejoin if you do go off there. Now, that could be a time penalty.
What I don't know is whether there's a bollard off the track that you have to drive to the right-hand side of before you rejoin. There's certainly a system in place like that down at turn 3, and we've seen that in action with a couple of arrows guiding you to a sort of off-the-track little narrow road, a bit like at Monza in the second chicane, which enables you to rejoin safely but also costs you time because of the mistake in turn 3. There it is, in fact, bottom right of your shot if you overshoot turn 3. There might be an equivalent to turns 1 and 2. At the very least, you can't come hammering over that high friction tarmac and just rejoin as if the mistake never occurred.
Indeed, 2 minutes to go this lap and one more for Ligier Stefan to claim the perfect weekend. George King still 11 and something behind him and not making progress here. Simone Riccitelli still under pressure for the final podium position, and with a folder presented, I'm sure, with due process and race control to the stewards for the manner in which he rejoined the race after running straight on at turn 1.
He did actually gain time. I looked at the splits and there was a 0.2 of a second advantage for car 7, so it's now going to be 10 seconds added to the race time at the end of the race for the car in question, car 7, Simone Riccitelli and Jacopo Mazza. So 10 seconds will easily put it behind Ian Aguilera.
It will be just that one place. Irritatingly for the third place car at the moment, it's going to cost him a podium position.
But I think that's fair. That's effectively the docking of one position, because, you know, you could argue that he would have lost that.
Off the track.
He was off the track, yes, but he may have, had he gone through the off-track bit of turns 1 and 2 correctly, he may well have lost the position to Ian Aguilera. So you just switch those around, dock the 7 car one place, and everybody theoretically is happy.
Meanwhile, by the way, small news as we get into the last lap now for the race leader. Is the fastest lap of the race, under 2:01, 2 minutes, .991. It comes from HP Racing by Monza Garage, the number 4 car, 04 on the side of the car, Daniele Casaniga. Sits in 10th place, but no shortage of pace from the young Italian, and I think he may make up a place before the end of this race. Stefan Manea, though, Stefan, I keep saying that the wrong way around, 12 seconds to good. And this has been pretty faultless, John.
It really has, and we knew that Ligier Stefan was good, but he wasn't able really to unleash this sort of pace as early on as he would have wished, I think, in race 1. He still managed to come away with the victory, but it was much significantly decreased margin of victory in the end. What was it, 3 or 4 seconds? 3.3 over Bernardo Pinheiro and George King's car. but this time establishing himself. It was really in the opening stint where he opened the gap up. And, oh, well, what the crucial thing I'm forgetting, of course, is the late safety car in the first race. And
closed it right up.
Ligier Stefan had a larger advantage prior to that caution. So, yes, rather gave us a false reflection on the race, you might say.
What we have had this race, as they come around the final few turns, is an opportunity to see Ligier Stefan at pace against George King and his and Bernardo Pinheiro, because that was not something we saw in race 1 because of the lap 1 whoopsie between the 04 and the number 60. This time, though, he has imposed his authority and is coming through Johnny Palmer to win this race.
This is quite a bit an awkward finish to the race because he's having to go the high side of the Jacques Nicolet car, but some understanding there from the Nicolet number 86, and weaving now in celebration. Ligier Stefan will make it 2 out of 2 at Circuit Paul Ricard here at Le Castellet, much to the celebration of Team Virage as well, because they will finish again with a 1-2 and this time 5th place finish, which is exactly actually the same as what they had in the first race. So 48 beating the 60, and the number 1 car, as earlier today, finishing in 5th place. There was a tweak, though, and will be a further tweak, in fact, to the podium finisher, because on the road it will be car 7, Simone Riccitelli and Jacopo Mazza, but after the race they will be given a 10-second penalty, which will drop them behind RLRM Sport.
I was just looking as well at what might happen. We need to keep an eye on the end of JS2 R, because Max Meyer has made his way up into 3rd place, has, though, similarly to Riccitelli, a 10-second penalty to be added, but he's going much quicker than Jacques Nicolet in 3rd and might just make that time up. Needs to be less than 10 seconds ahead of Jacques Nicolet, or more than 10 seconds ahead of Jacques Nicolet, and I think he's going to do that.
So that change for 3rd in JS P4 has already been recognised by Al Gamel, our timekeepers for the whole of the weekend. Julien Le Mans in the 42 then, working his way through this final corner to, as you say, on the road, take the victory. David Rodrigo for LR Motorsport running at the moment in 2nd, with Max Meyer in 3rd in the number 10 car. But Max Meyer and that extra penalty, like the number 10 car got earlier on, will get a 10-second penalty at the end of the race.
I think he's going to be okay.
Yeah. But there's a race winner. There are some discussions being had down at Team Virage, but I think most of them are very happy indeed. And a cracking result. Yes, it's not all 3 cars on the podium. They've got 2 of them there for Team Virage. High fives can commence as well at ANS Motorsport, because there's another great result for Julien Le Mans after Le Mans went so well at the start of last month. The 42 car coming home as the lead JS2 R for the 2nd time today. So they will also achieve the AM victory as well. Ligier Stefan wins JS P4. The Pro-Am victory will go the way of, well, certainly the AM victory will go the way of the number 1 car of the Team Virage American teammates for Lance Fenton and Kevin Madsen. So congratulations to them. I think they'll be pretty chuffed with their day's work in the Ligier European Series. Remember, the next time we see these cars, it will be for the additional rounds, racing on the Saturday of the final weekend of August at the Aragon circuit in Spain. So we're really looking forward to that. From Graham Goodwin and from me, Johnny Palmer, it's bye-bye for now.